My man, Drewbie, thank you so much for coming on the Winners Paradigm podcast, brother. It's been a couple years in the making. Been following you. We had mutual friends, and I really loved. Everybody was always talking highly of you, and I was like, you know what? Eventually, this podcast will work out. So, good thing is, time on schedule's cleared up. You've been amazing being flexible because my little one was sick the other day. So, I just want to commend you and say thank you for being an amazing dude, brother. Before I get ahead of myself, would you mind giving us a brief intro? Who you are, what you're passionate about today, brother?
Yeah, for sure, man. So thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Totally understand the flexibility side. I got a little one too, man. Family comes first. And that is a lot of what we'll talk about, for me. So my name is Drewbie Wilson, the self-proclaimed meme lord. If you don't already know, now you know. Um, my thing is I really love, at this point, I'll just say it, I love helping people. And one of the ways that I help people most is I teach them how to dial in their sales and follow-up process so they can make more money and then use that money to go out and crush the day, because that's my mentality, man. I've had a lot of growth in my life. At one point I was 300 plus pounds. I lost a lot of weight, got my shit together, started focusing on my family and my business, and really led into building something that, in my opinion, I'm trying to set so that it'll speak for itself. You said something earlier that I really love about how you knew people. We have mutual friends that had said great things about me. And one of the quotes that I really love is from Jeff Bezos. And it says, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." And so for me, my life is all about how can I build a brand that when people are talking about me when I'm not around, they're saying those sorts of amazing things. They're saying, hey, you got to rock with these guys. You got to check them out because their mission is so big that it's truly making that much of an impact on the world that even when you're not in the room, they want to talk about it.
Boom, bro. I love that so much. And that was one of the things that kind of caught my attention with you. Was, I was cool with a lot of Apex guys, cool with Thomas, cool with Chris, and then they did their own thing, and I was cool with them. And it was funny, it's like your name always popped up, brother. And I stayed my distance for a little bit just because my business partner decided to go on a rant, and my name got thrown in the mix, with other people when they're messaging me. And it was funny because it was like, no matter what, through the whole time, it was like people were still talking good about you. And they're like, oh, Drewbie doesn't give a shit. Drewbie's a cool dude. Da, 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 da. And I was like, hey, bro, I'm not trying to be like in anybody's beefs. Like, we're grown ass men. We got to handle ourselves
Yep.
accordingly. And that was something that was cool, is just the way you show up. And you talked about that right now, bro. You were 300 pounds. You lead a sales business, which sales is something that unless you're in it, unless you're aligned to that right energy, you don't fucking get it. Can you touch up on that, brother? What it was like when you flipped your life around, you started building those habits in, and what that energy was like when it came to doing your own business and teaching people on the sales levels?
For sure, man. So I grew up a hustler, bro. Like I was in the streets at a young age. I was what I like to call a commodities relocation specialist, meaning like if you needed something, I was the guy that you could typically call to find it, get it, help you find it. Um, and with that, I learned to just be flexible, right? I learned how to work within different industries and work within different kinds of people. And so sales has always been in my blood. And it was also something that I always hated salespeople. I was always, these fucking sales guys, I was trying to like scamming and taking advantage of people. But what I realized over time is there's really two different kinds of salespeople. There's the hardcore, like right in your face, got to close it right now, got to get this done, got to get this deal, one call close, like will not walk away until they sign the deal. And I can respect that. And then also there's my typical type of sales, which is kind of like, hey, bro, this is what I got. This is what you're telling me you need. This is what I know can help you get the thing that you're asking for. What you want to do.
Boom.
And so it's really for me about service more than just sales. And what I've learned is that it's really a good combination of both, because you have to be able to push when you need to push and you need to be able to step back when you need to step back. It's kind of like learning to be a good dancer. Even though I have zero rhythm, I'm as white can be when it comes to that. Like I'm a robot as far as dance moves. But from a sales finesse, I've learned to read people. I've learned to work with people and understand that it's really about what they want. And if you can get them what they want, they're going to pay whatever it takes to get it. They're going to do whatever's necessary so long as the motivation is strong enough to make them make the decision and then to take action from there.
Hell yeah, brother. You know what? I love that. I was the same way. Always, I was taught that at a young age to always have connections, always have people. And that was the way I operated. And then when in the military, it was the same hood mindset within the military. And it was funny as shit because I thought all those things would leave. And then when I got into business, bro, it was the same fucking shit where it was like, hey, you got to be smart the way you talk to people. I was used to that style, went in straight to the home improvement sales, and it was just close hard. And then it went into, learning my own style. And for me, it was like, hey, this is what I do. This is how I can help you. It was funny as I tried to start a podcast for a guy and he just wasn't there yet. And it was funny because he's saying all these things, he's all over the place. And I'm like, hey, bro, we got to build the foundation first. And he's one of those guys that was taking too much info from people. And my buddy said this, my buddy said, I need to do this for my macros. And I'm like, no, it doesn't fucking matter what your buddy said and what he said about your macros. If you don't believe in it and you don't know what you're doing, you're never going to fucking lose the weight. You're never going to get shredded like you say. You're never going to live that life, because that's what he kept doing, was ballooning. And I was laughing because I was like, bro, I did the same things, So normally my style of leadership is screaming at the dude, being like, hey, bro, what the fuck are you doing? And I just started talking sweet to him and really whispering when I had conversations with him. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, bro, like, I already know what to do. You need attention. You need me to coach you. I'm just going to fucking whisper to you. Like, there's no need, just like that client, who's getting upset with you. There's no need to match that energy. I'm just going to stay chill over here. Hey, bro, this is what we have to offer. This is how I'm going to help you. You came to me for a fucking reason. There's no reason elsewhere, And I love the way that you said that. Is people don't understand that, especially with sales. We think that, oh, it has to be this pressure style, it has to be this or that. Like you said it earlier as well. If you build that brand, you show up continually, everybody's going to see exactly who you are, what you're about. And that's one thing I love about you, my man, is you're transparent with who you are on and off the screen, with, even showing your family and all the things that you're doing. And let's touch into that element, brother. How powerful is it when you're able to show within your brand the full transparency of who you are and that mission that comes behind it?
Honestly, it's one of the things I believe that makes our whole brand stand out, right? Is the fact that we are living it the way that we're talking about it, and we are really just trying to learn. I'm not perfect, like by any means. I'm still learning and growing every day. And what I've really realized over time, being in the room with the players, being in the room with the guys that are moving and shaking, man, they don't know either. They're mostly still trying to figure it out day in and day out. There's always a new problem. There's always something else that's coming up. So for me, it's about, that's where crushing the day comes from. It's going, all right, well, what's important to me? Because back in 2019 on Christmas Eve, my wife gave me her wedding ring back and was like, dog, you're married to the business, not to your family. And as much as I love you and will support you, like, this ain't it. So I had to take a hard step back and realize, like, even though I was making six figures and I had stepped into this new version of myself that I thought was who I was supposed to be, creating this legacy and making this money and her not having to work. And I thought that I was building this thing, but I was in my head in the future. And they were sitting here on the couch while I was in my mind doing whatever I was doing, wondering what the fuck I was doing. And they were just going, well, dude, we're here. What else do you need, Doug? You're making the money. We're here. You're in shape. Like, what are you doing? And that was really when I started settling in and going, all right, well, what is important to me? Because success is perspective. What I see is going to be different than what you see, is different than what the listener sees as success. And really, if you think about it, what did our parents look at our future and see as our version of success? Like, our parents had some wildly different version of our lives for us than we've ever really ever wanted, but that was their version of success for us. So accepting it as a perspective is what gives you the opportunity to step into that ownership and saying, all right, well, if this is my version of success, spending time with family, building a business that allows me to do that, going and traveling and having enough time for the hobbies that I like and care about, well, then who's to tell me that it's not?
Bro, that's fucking powerful right there. I love that for multiple reasons. You know what I mean? Especially when you talked about just the presence factor. I was the same thing, December 31st, 2022, my wife was going to leave me. And that's really when my world started crumbling, bro, was not being in alignment. And that's going to be the next part we're talking about, is not being in alignment with the people that we needed to be in order to get to that next level. And you think that it is, you're like, oh, I got these fucking killers around me. I got these dudes. And then you realize that, like, hey, bro, that was one part of the journey. Now I need to elevate and get around new people. And that was something that clicked to me the other day, was like, every year of entrepreneurship, I've been around other entrepreneurs that are continually doing something differently. They may be making that money, but it's like that presence factor, the way that they speak is completely fucking different. And it's like you continually evolve for that. And that was something that I resonated with, especially when you're talking about the parents. I was thinking about that, as for me, I'm always talking about how my parents were and how they didn't challenge the norm, or how we said dumb shit. Or, one thing I love about you as well is you're tatted up. That was something for me, was growing up, my mom be like, don't get tattoos. You're not going to get a good job. Like, fuck that. You know what I mean? And that was something I did where I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a hand tattoo. Like, why the fuck am I going to sit here listening to somebody tell me about what I can do and about my body and how I'm going to fucking live my life if they're not even living their fucking lives? Because I've already worked for these dudes where it's just like, you can't respect that behavior. And two, it's like, how are you going to tell yourself that you can't have something? And that was, a limiting belief that was always there, was like, you can't have the next thing. You can't, work on the business and be present with the family. Well, what was funny was December 22, my partnership failed, and I was fucking pissed because it happened through a text message. And after that, completely fucked me because in debt. Homie was promising me we're gonna make so much money. I'm gonna connect you with these people. Well, he has a fight with some people, bro. I lost so much business off of that, and then went in my own thing, and it was contradictory. And it was funny because within that time, I was taking care of my kids still, running the business, trying to get it going, and I was fucking upset. Like, bro, I can never fucking catch a break. And when I really looked at it, it was like being present. And what I needed to do was share more of my story. And then I started talking about it. I literally have a podcast dropping today when my daughter's on the interview. And I was just like, hey, I interviewed John Lee Dumas, and it was funny is the only fucking podcast interview, bro. I didn't tell somebody that, hey, I have my kids in the background. Hey, they might jump on. This fool calls me out for it. Hey, just let everybody know the baby screaming in the background's him, not me. And it really pissed me off that day. So I made it a mission to tell the next people, hey, you come on a podcast. My little ones are here. I got a 2-year-old. I got a 10-month-old. If you don't like it, get fucked. You can eat a dick. I'm not going to sit here, and argue about what I'm doing. And what's funny is like when I came with an aggressive approach towards it, people were like, yeah, bro, I love you for that. Like, you're just being the best dad you can be. You don't care who it is. You're authentically you. And that was something for me where it was like, bro, I sweated this business shit where everything needed to be perfect. I needed to be a certain way. And that's where the alignment sector came in, was when I was aligned to the people who weren't doing the right things, that, behind closed doors, weren't acting in accordance with their core values, foundational principles, as well as just showing up, being the best that they can be, whether it was in the gym. Because old boy used to tell me, oh, yeah, you don't need to go to the gym. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And that was something that worked for him. He was doing whatever workouts he likes to do. For me, I stay in the gym. That is one thing that works for me. So it was funny when I changed different rooms, and then I'm with other guys and they're like, hey, bro, just do you every single day. You don't need to fucking listen to anybody else's game plan if it's not going to work for your business. And all of a sudden the money started to come, life started to change, just because I aligned myself to the core values and principles that aligned to me, not to somebody else. So let's touch on that factor, brother. What was it like for you when you just focused on the alignment portion? You got straight yourself and then was able to just attract the same amount of clients, attract everything coming from the place of authenticity, versus before where you may have not been 100% all in, like you were saying.
Yeah, one of the things that I've spent a lot of time studying in the last 6 months, especially, is the human mind. Because when you look at personal development as a whole, it literally just breaks down to your making your mind better, more powerful. That's all personal development is, whether you're learning to get motivated, learning to channel like certain feelings or emotions so that you can go and do the thing you need to do. From a physical standpoint, yes, obviously your body has to grow, but that's you making a decision to go and do the thing. That's all it is. And then continuing to make the decision to do the thing over and over and over again. So I've studied the unconscious mind, neuro-linguistic programming, like really going deep on that. And when you look at alignment, it's interesting how there's a terminology called perception is projection. And so essentially what it is breaks down to is your unconscious mind will project out all of the things into the conscious world that you need to learn so that you can take the next step in your life. Because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly growing, we're going through these seasons and phases, right? And so those people that you're projecting into your life, you have to sit back and ask yourself, like, what are the lessons that I'm supposed to learn here? Instead of getting upset that your business partner fucked you, or that, man, there's just this like constantly seems like everybody that I get around, like, man, they just don't live up to their core values. They don't live up to their core values. Well, what is that projecting back to you? It may not be that you're not living in your core values, but it may also be that you're not actively creating a strong enough boundary when you notice that there's a red flag or someone that's pushing up against those core values of yours. So it's important to realize that if you don't look at those relationships and really step back and analyze them to understand, like, what was I supposed to learn there? You're just going to project that same person into a different individual. You're going to have that same relationship with a new person over and over and over. And you're going to go through this loop until you get the lesson that you need to learn so that you can go forward in your life. And if you're sitting here listening to this right now, you know there's a person that constantly keeps showing up in your life. There's this cycle of, like, they're there, you go through all this shit, you have your blow up, you get rid of them, and then a year later, you're going through the same thing. So it's just important to realize that you're just as much at cause for those relationships as the other individual who keeps randomly showing up and fucking you in your life.
Again, homie, you hit it on the money. That's something I'm always talking about. And it was funny because I was watching a video and some dude was calling out Wes Watson. And then he was just like, what happens if I want to be fat and happy? And he's like, what happens if I just want to drink a mojito? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and I was thinking about that shit. And I was like, it's not about who the fuck you follow. And it's not about whatever. It's about you and your mission. And I'm like, for me, I can't have those motherfuckers around me. Like, I know for me, I gave up drinking. I gave up that partying. I gave up the bullshit that led me further away from my wife and my kids. So why do I want to be around those people? And that was something like I had a friend who's even a bodybuilder, and I was like, oh, this is one of my best friends, da, 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 you know. And it was the same principle, brother, where homie doesn't stick to his P's and Q's. You know, he does things when it's convenient for him, late to his obligations because of whatever, you know, makes the excuse of, oh, I have the physique, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, bro, I love you to death, but I can't have that around me. Why? Because I went through the same things. You know, I had the people around me that validated that bullshit, validated whatever they're doing to justify is, oh, I make 6 figures, I make 8 figures, you know, lying about the money that they make. And then it comes out that they're not those people. And that was something for me, you know, where I did the same exact things. So I'm really intentional with who I spend my time with, how I spend it. And that's why, you know, even with the podcast, always being vulnerable, talking about those things is like, I've been there, fucking done that already. You know, I've been around the events where they're like, oh, watch out for that guy. You know, you don't want to be investing your money into that guy. And then you're like, yeah, I can, you know, and you end up going down that route and you realize that same thing is, hey, I didn't heal myself from this core belief, or I didn't heal myself from this. So that's why I'm repeating it and attracting those same folks. So that was powerful the way you said it, bro. Is a lot of people don't understand that. You know, they don't understand that it originates from you. Just like when you talk about, you know, oh, my ex was this, my ex was this, my ex was this. And it's like, yeah, your ex can be whatever they are, but at the same time, you still attracted them by whatever frequency you're at the beginning. So in turn, if you're bashing them, you're bashing yourself because you're not understanding that it was you that brought that upon yourself, not that this person just came into your life and all of a sudden just fucked your world up. Like, no, you attracted that because you were in a particular way, and then now you're talking about it in a different light. So I love the way you said that, bro.
Well, and why not reframe it? Why not look at, all right, well, this person brought all of these benefits to my life and I'm now better because of it. Yeah, it's a different season, but you know what?
Oh,
Like, it's a choice of how you spend your energy. Time and energy are the two finite resources you cannot buy more of. You can't buy more time. You can't win it in a poker tournament. No one gets a box of it for Christmas, and no one gets a card full of it on their birthday. So, like, literally, people just walk around like time is this unlimited thing that they can just fuck off and do whatever with. But it's the only thing that you literally cannot do that. There's no guarantee. Like, we could get off this podcast and something could happen, and we may never ever see each other or talk to each other again. So the opportunity to show up and pour in right now, this time, that's what's important. And that's where what happens is people are living in this future paced mindset where they're like, I'm building this thing and I'm going to have all this stuff and all these things are going to happen. And like, I love that. Manifest it, right? But find your boundary, because what happens is if you get too far off into la la land, well, everyone else who's on your team, your spouse, your kids, your partners, all they're like over here going, where the fuck is this dude at? And there's a gap, there's a dissonance. And what happens when that gap gets too far or the bridge gets broken or it's just there's no way to solve it. And now all of the people who you needed to be there for you when you finally reach your destination, they're not going to be there. So looking at what were the benefits of the relationship instead of what were the negatives, because if all you're doing is spending your time on the negative, well, guess what you're going to keep attracting? More negative.
boom.
It's that simple.
Bro, that's one thing I'm big on as well, you know, is just the way you're moving. A lot of people don't understand that intensity that they need to have, number one. And I'm not saying intensity is like, oh, we need to be off, but it's just like how quick you need to maneuver. You have a setback, hey, boom, hit it this way. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is they haven't had that ability to lose people, to lose money, to lose whatever it is, to where they're like, bro, this frequency of me just beating myself up doesn't fucking work. And I need to be on to the next thing. And that was one thing for me, is one of my own self as business. And it was funny because I learned that I didn't develop myself as much as I thought I did. I got out the military. I was like, oh, I worked myself to get into this partnership. And then once I got into there, I was like, hey, the reason why I did this partnership this was because I wanted life to be easier. And I'm like, I did it strategically so I can be an employee essentially. And that's exactly how I was treated was, hey, I'm good at this. I'm good at getting people booked on podcasts. I'm good at doing the production on podcasts. You do the lead gen. And then when it came down to it, I didn't have to do fucking lead gen. So that's why I wasn't making any money. So I had to relearn that, focus on the new of who I was having around, what I'm doing. And all of a sudden it started to click where it was like, that's the missing equation, is I didn't learn all the steps of my own business and I was relying on somebody to fill in a role that they didn't do. And that was where it fucked me over was like, hey, I failed because I should have been knowing their job. I should have knew exactly what to do. So when I hit the ground running, it was easier. Good thing is it took me time, money, my wife about to leave me to say, hey, this is what I need to do to get better. So that's powerful, brother. And especially us as men, as a lot of guys don't get that. A lot of guys think that we can have things on our conditional basis versus, like you said, crushing the day and focusing on that. So let's touch on that last part before we wrap it up here, brother. How powerful is it when you can actually focus on the day at hand, focus on what you do, not breaking character versus, being all over the place, thinking that you can do things on your conditional basis?
Yeah, I talked a lot about, time and being a valuable resource. And one of the things that like really fucked me up along the way, there was two things that happened. One, someone called me one time when I was selling insurance and I had started doing marketing and I was starting to kind of explore entrepreneurship. And she's like, hey, I see that you're doing really well with this stuff. Um, how much for an hour of your time to jump on a call and show me a few things? And my dumbass was like, well, I make a $1,500 a month salary and I average about 2,000 in commission. So if I divide that by 40 hours a month, like I make 25 bucks an hour. And I'm like, all right, well, 25 bucks an hour is cool. But if I work in double time or overtime, I should get time and a half or 2x. So like, all right, ma'am, Nancy, just pay me 50 bucks. And she's like, I'm going to send you 75. Like, yeah, all right. And like that was such a humbling thing for me to sit back and look at that like prospectively and go, fucking $25? Because if I'm deaf and I come knocking on your door and I'm like, hey bro, you got 24 hours left to live. Here's 50 bucks, come with me. What are you gonna say? You're gonna like we both know that you're gonna tell me to kick rocks. That's not happening. Now there may be a number where you're like 24 hours, that much, you can do whatever you need to do to me, dog. I don't care. Because I know for a reason and intention what I can do with that value, right? What I can do with that return for my time. And yet, so many people still wake up and just go through their day and it's like, yeah, I'll fucking get to that later. I'll call my spouse later. I'll text her. She knows I love her. I don't, like, yeah, my kid knows. I'll spend time with him next week. I'll do the thing next time. But here's where I really got messed up, bro. Someone came to me when I was first starting to make a little money and getting my life going. And he's like, hey, I really appreciate your hustle, Drewbie. Like, I love it. You're killing the game. You're closing deals. Like, it's pretty dope. But I got to ask you, dog, how would it feel if you had to spend an eternity sitting up in heaven, watching down to some other asshole slept in your bed with your wife in your home and raised your kid with your money because you couldn't take the time to take care of yourself?
Boom.
That fucked me up, man. Because that doesn't sound like heaven. That sounds like the opposite of heaven. Having to sit and watch, like, hell no. What are you doing? No. What's wrong with you? But again, if we don't prioritize our time and put the value on it the way that we should, no one else is going to prioritize it or value it either. And so that to me is where crushing the day really comes into play. If I know there's a few things that are important, sleep, because you got to sleep every day. And I've gone on 48 and 72 hour benders. It don't look good at that point. Like, you got to sleep. Our families are always number one, right? We're all out here talking about the legacy and the future, and that's all well and good. Family relationships, like, yes, that's important. Our business, Because don't nobody here have fuck you money just yet. And if you're listening and you do have fuck you money, hell yeah, that's awesome. But most of us don't yet, so we're still working on that. And then we put ourselves last, which is fucked up because if you've ever been on an airplane, what's the thing that they tell you during the safety briefing?
Yeah, put that
Got to
oxygen
put your
mask on first.
Yeah, you got to put your own mask on first because if you don't, you're literally a burden to everyone else around you. So why are you out here living your life, putting yourself last, being a burden on everyone that's in your circle, everyone who's counting on you to be the man to show up and to provide for them and to take care of them as your best self? How can you do that if you're not actually doing that, right? This is where those core values, that alignment comes back into play. It's like, hey, I've seen people that talk about it, and then I've seen the people that walk about it. And they don't got
Yeah.
to talk about it like that because they're actually doing it. And that's the kind of man I want to be.
That's powerful, brother. And that was something what's funny is me and my wife bumped heads on that until I started leading from the front and just showing it day in, day out. And it wasn't even me leading, it was more of what other people said, where family was like, why do you have this scale out? And I'm like, oh, you got to know your macros. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, if I know exactly how much I'm eating, then it's a simple mathematic equation of what it is because I fucked my metabolism up. I used to drink a lot, whatever it is, So now I'm just calculated out what I'm putting into myself, what I'm doing, and how early I get up. And I'm always trying to get a workout in before the day starts so I can show up with that best energy. Because how am I going to pour in and be the best dad I can be to my kids? How am I going to be the best husband if I can't even focus on my own shit? Where every day I wake up pissed off, like there's always more I can do. There's more I can do. And if not, you keep that feeling in your body. And then the next day you hold on to the same thing. Or maybe at the end of the day, oh, I need to get that workout in. And then you skip, and then you're more pissed off at yourself because of that. So it was funny for me because when I started leading and actually living that shit, everybody's like, bro, this new energy came with you. And I'm like, it's not new energy. It's just I started focusing on me, focusing on, hey, how do I show up for everybody else and focus on myself first because I wasn't doing that. And that's why my results weren't reflecting because the other people that I was around, again, we're talking about alignment community, they did the same thing. They weren't in alignment 100% with what they needed to do or, what they have that part figured out. And that was the part you said as well is even the guys we look up to, they don't even have everything figured out. And a lot of times we think, oh, that. And then it comes out later on that, hey, they're still figuring out their own shit. They're figuring out what works for them. And that's why, we took that poor advice and we blamed it or we did whatever. And we're like, oh, it didn't work for us. But the fact is we weren't showing up first, doing what we needed first for the whole world. And that's why everything else resonated with that. So powerful again, brother. You've been an amazing guest. Can't wait to be able to jam with you for a second time. So I'll close it out with this last question. What would you say to the previous version of ourselves? We're at the beginning of the journey. We don't know where to start. We just want to align ourselves with our definition of success.
Trust the process. So many people want an instant result, which is why you see so many people that are trying to they fall for those overnight get rich kick schemes, the lose weight fast schemes. Like everybody wants instant results, and it's just not the way it works. You got to trust the process. It ain't sexy. It ain't always fun. It doesn't always feel great, but it will in the process. That's the thing is everybody talks about the destination, but the journey is really the whole thing. That's the process. That's doing the work day in and day out and getting to enjoy those moments because it's the ability to appreciate the moment right now that is when you truly are able to understand happiness because if you're constantly chasing something, you're not actually appreciating what you have. You're not showing the gratitude. So the world doesn't want to give you more because you can't even appreciate what you have now. So learn to appreciate the process and the moments, and they just get better and better and better.
Man, I love that so much. And we talked about alignment, and literally, I went on last night, talked about the same thing. Wasn't able to get a workout in the morning, had a late night workout, and I was talking about my injuries. I tore a bunch of cartilage in my both my knees, knee replacements, fucking my whole body fell apart, and I was trying to deadlift, and it was funny as fuck because I'm trying to post this. Oh, putting up a number, and for some reason it didn't fucking go through. Like Instagram was not letting me post my shit. And I got a little pissed off. And then, I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? This is a good teaching point. And went on there. And I was just like, for me, it was trusting the fucking process. Like, I never thought that I would get back to the point. I really don't even lift that heavy a lot of the time to my standard. A lot of people are like, oh, you lift heavy. I'm like, nah, I can go a lot heavier. The fact is trusting the fucking process. I didn't take care of myself when I was younger. So that's why it led into injuries. That's why it led into bad things, especially into business. When I started focusing on what I consume in my body, the form, the reps. That went into business because the way that you do one thing is the way you do everything. So all of a sudden in business, I'm always talking about I don't do business. I don't do any business unless it's clean business because I just don't believe in that. I've done the shady business. I've done the, oh, well, let's charge this number because we can. And it just didn't align me to being the best I can be versus just showing up and fucking doing it. And it was funny because when I focus on the small things, behind closed doors, in the gym, how I treat my wife, how I treat my kids, how I focus on being better, all that came in business. And I started getting these people hitting me up. Hey, man, I would love to work with you. I don't even know what you do, but I would love to work with you just because of who you are, how you show up for your kids. Like, I don't know how you have a motor. You mentioned sleep. I'm always talking about that. I don't need fucking sleep. And then one day I do get sleep. And people are like, hey, man, how do you do it? I'm like, hey, I just show up every day because, again, lost the people. I've lost the time in the business. I've lost the money. And I realized like that's not the way I want to live my life because I've been there, grew up lower to middle class. You have just enough. You have food. You guys are okay, but there's more to life, and that you're not just going to live that way. So that's what I teach. And it was funny because when I was at that lowest point, that was one of the things was it was just speaking into that person. And especially now, when it's having that client and they're like, I don't know if I can afford this. And I'm like, hey man, $300 a month for coaching to get your foundation principles in check, get your mindset right so you can start preaching on it. It's simple. You're going to spend that fucking money regardless. And number two, it's like, you need that person. A lot of us need that person that's going to hold them accountable, need them that's going to walk them through these things. And that was something powerful for me, is I didn't understand that until, and that's the powerful part is you can teach everybody on those levels when you start doing that work. So I appreciate you, brother. You've been an amazing fucking guest. It was an honor finally being able to interview you and chopping it up, man. Where can people catch up with you if they want to learn more about you, follow you, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, man. It's one of those things where I know that you're on the mission I'm on, which is just helping people find another way to be a better version of them so that they can live the life they truly want to live. Because as we talked about, success is perspective. And now that they've got that clarity on what they need to do and just creating their version of it, man, it's an honor to know that we helped at least one person here today. So thank you for that. If you guys want to find me, if you got some value out of this, first and foremost, go share it on social media. Tag us, the at Alundis_Havens, at Call the Damn Leads. Like, holler at us. Let us know that you got something from this by telling others that you enjoyed it. And then come and find me, callthedamnleads.com. If you go to callthedamnleads.com/free book offer, you can download the PDF version of this new book I just wrote. It gives you literally everything that I've learned about sales in the last 20 years that allowed me to do a little over $13+ million online at about $5,000 a pop. So I've done a lot of transactions. I've helped a lot of people, and I'd love to show you how to do the same because we know if you help enough people get what they want, eventually you'll get what you want. Shout out to Zig Ziglar for that one. So at Call the Damn Leads, pretty much anywhere and everywhere, man. Come and find me.
Hell yeah, brother. We'll have that in the show notes if you guys want to download that ebook and then exactly have the link to hit Drewbie up. So thank you, my man. It was an honor. I'd love to have you for round 2 in the future, bro.
Sounds good, man. We'll talk to you then.